All right, and we're going to wrap things up with Bitsy Bentley, who has some great thoughts on how to make your data experiences meaningful, hopefully building on some of the stuff that Noah was just talking about. Bitsy, over to you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. And following Noah, it's really an honor. I love all of his work. You should definitely check out his books. They're amazing. So I am the Director of Data Visualization at GFK Custom Research, and I wanted to sort of start out by talking about what is a meaningful data experience. Data visualization as an area has really exploded in recent history, and one of the problems that I think we get into is that we ask the visualization itself to do too much without really considering the context and considering the overall information architecture of an application or of an experience. So to sort of talk about data visualization a little bit more and sort of start to link that together with the broad spectrum of different experiences that can mean, it's really one term that has many different meanings. For me personally, the way that I like to describe what I do as a data visualization practitioner is really combine art, science, and communication to come up with a brilliant way of a really clear way of explaining a problem to a particular audience. But if you look at the entire sort of landscape of data visualization, I feel like to start with, there ends up being sort of a continuum between those people who are interested in just give me the facts, just show me the data, show me all the numbers, and then there's sort of the other end of the spectrum where people are saying, I want to hear a story, I want all of the additional information, I want to see what the what a supreme point of view ends up being, what the real point of view ends up being. So there's also sort of a secondary axis that you could put in there as well, and this is something that comes up a lot in the realm of data visualization, and there's a lot of debate about this, and I feel like it's a classic design issue of form versus function. Some people call it wow versus aha, or fluff versus fodder. It's something that you see a lot in terms of when data visualization practitioners like me get together and start talking. We get into a lot of arguments about it, because there are those practitioners that feel that having a strong point of view and being able to sort of manipulate some of the forms that you use make it able for you to really bring home your point of view and really bring a point out strongly. However, there's also those of us who feel that it can become a credibility issue, where if you remove the core features from if you remove the core understanding of the way that people perceive data and perceive information, and you manipulate that for your own ends, what does that actually do to your visualization, right? So there ends up being, in this sort of landscape, right, there's actually sort of 4 different functions that a data visualization can play, right? So in the upper left quadrant, we've got people who are really about expressing. So as practitioners about expressing, really great data artists, right? And then we've also got, in the upper right, we've got people who are really concerned with aesthetics and want to do storytelling, but are willing to sort of manipulate the aesthetics a little bit in order to really be pointed about it. I really think of that as being like sales, right? Versus those who are really into sort of telling a story and want to be very neutral about their presentation. I feel like those are really getting into the descriptive visualizations, and then you're talking with the folks that are really concerned about the facts themselves and want to be really functional with that. That's really the visualization that happens for discovery, right? So to layer additional information onto that, it kind of breaks the entire landscape apart into these 4 quadrants of art, marketing, journalism, and analysis. And just to give you sort of a brief couple of examples of these different quadrants as I see it, you've got the work of Jonathan Harris and Sepp Kamvar, the We Feel Fine project. I think this is a really great example of beautiful work that was done for the purposes of expression. And if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. McCandless, a lot of people are aware of the Information is Beautiful project that he did, and he's done a lot to really sell data visualization as a practice, and he really sells a lot of ideas through that. And then you've got the work of people like Amanda Cox of the New York Times. I'm a huge fan of the work that the data graphics department does there. And then finally, Hans Rosling's Gapminder, I think, is a really great example of visualization that's done for analysis. And there's certainly a storytelling component there as well, but the application interface itself really provides a lot of opportunity for exploration and self-discovery, which is pretty great. So, looking at this overall sort of landscape, one thing I do want to point out here is, getting back to the original title, crafting meaningful data experiences. Each one of these examples, these are not printed objects. These are items that are meant to be interacted with, and it's really about experiencing data through these different means. So what brings meaning to data experiences? It really is, as Noah mentioned earlier, it's really about putting yourself in the mind of your audience. And so I'm going to be getting much more in-depth at Strata in this area. But my personal experience as the director of data visualization for a research company is I work with a lot of large clients that help with that need help with understanding their business problems. So really the two main things that we end up doing is we use primary survey-based data, and we provide interfaces and data graphics so that they can really understand how to raise revenue or decrease risk. And so as I'm designing a data application, that's really sort of what's at the center, at the core of what I'm trying to help our clients do is know how to make decisions more expediently and know how to really provide value for their organizations. So as I'm doing that, the way that I tend to look at it is we usually have three different main types of audiences within our clients. We've got executives, folks that are in marketing, and then also analysts. And the needs that they have end up being different needs, and the challenge then is how do we create a single data application that can actually appeal to each one of these needs and give meaning to each one of these different audiences. Because when it comes to these different audiences, the analysts are making decisions on a daily basis versus the executives, which are using these data to make decisions maybe on a monthly basis or less often. There's definitely an issue of familiarity, right? So with analysts that are working with the data on a daily basis, we can assume a higher level of sophistication and assume that we can give them a more challenging interface because they're going to be spending more time in and getting more comfortable with it. So we have the ability to do some training with them as well, right? Whereas with our executive audiences, we don't have that ability. There's much more time constraint, and because the window of opportunity to communicate with those people is so small, and they really need sort of more of an overview type of idea, how do we format that application interface so that they get what they need in a really quick way? Right, and another way of thinking about it is sort of when we look at it from thinking about it in terms of being very strategic to being very tactical. So this is what I'm going to be discussing at Strata, and I hope that you all got a nice overview of my presentation. And it's really about talking about a case study of using user-centered design for a data application for an enterprise. So thank you very much, and I'll see you at Strata.
All right, thanks a lot, Bitsy. Very nice slides. I think it's always great to see visualization, people whose slides are themselves fun to look at. Ed and I didn't get to this in our little chat, but I wanted to ask you about it while I got you here. In 2012, I think it's fair to say the infographic is the new stump speech, and the rebuttal is the new questioning the source data. Tell me what you think about stuff like the 538 and its impact on the electoral process. Visualizations for everyone going forward in a world where we're increasingly expecting our data in real time.
What I'm seeing is actually a lot more criticism of infographics because there's been such an explosion of them. And I think one of the things that we're going to see, hopefully, is that audiences are going to start thinking much more critically about the way that data are being presented to them. It's something that I certainly see I work mainly in business graphics, right? So something that I end up seeing a lot of is clients starting to be a little bit more critical about the presentation of information, and there being a little bit more rigor in terms of that. And I think that the thing that I'm really excited about is that the explosion of infographics making data a lot more accessible to the general public, and I think that's a really positive thing. But I do think that there's going to be a certain amount of fatigue that ends up happening with that, and people are going to start leaning on self-discovery a little bit more, and get a little more interested in more of the data graphics that we would see from data journalists and that type of thing.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to give us a preview today. It's been great hearing your thoughts on it. I really like your 4 quadrants model. That sort of summarizes it very well. It goes hand in hand with what John Rouser was saying about data scientists being a part narrator, part mathematician, part skeptic, and part engineer. I think each of those maps to one of your quadrants very well. And certainly, is design the new editorial is a real question. Do you make your opponents red or blue based on the human perception of color? There's lots of interesting philosophical discussions to have around that.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to wind things up now. Thank you all for attending. I hope this has been useful and interesting. I know it's been fascinating to listen to the presenters that have spent time with us today. A lot of this is in preparation for the Strata conference, which is coming up next month, February 28th to March 1st in Santa Clara. All the people you've heard here and many, many more like them will be spending 3 or 4 days talking about the impact of big data, ubiquitous computing, and new interfaces on our society. This is happening in Santa Clara, and to thank you for joining us today. If you still haven't bought your tickets, if you use the code OLC6, you will save 20% on your registration at strataconf.com. I'd like to thank all of my presenters for joining us today, and thank all of you for spending some time online. And we look forward to seeing you at the next Strata Online Conference, and hopefully in person at the end of next month. Have a great day.